Get to some Heisman odds in just a moment. I know in your world, Sam, there was some controversy involving the Pope. So we get word on the Pope after the show yesterday. We had talked about the various odds. Paul was all in. He was doing some deep dives. He didn't mention the winner, right? And he ended up being a long shot from where he opened up.
Yeah, I couldn't even find a price. I didn't
Okay.
see him on any lists. I didn't think he was even like a candidate. And then it was either Polymarket or the other one that had the Pope, who is now the Pope. They had him with a 1% chance to win. So that gives you an idea of just how big of an upset that was for the Chicago kid to be made true and give us the first ever American Pope. USA, USA.
Of course, he's a White Sox fan. So there was the controversy I was talking about wasn't the betting markets. It was at least locally I saw because at first there was one news media outlet that ran with the idea that he's a Cubs fan, and that was clarified quickly. White Sox fans very upset. I understand why you guys are always forgotten about. ESPN always forgets that you guys actually won the World Series when they show highlights. They always skip over the White Sox. I get it, but it was funny that one of the news outlets like he's a Cubs fan, and then his brother's like, no, that is not the case. And then all this evidence came out that he's a big White Sox fan, actually.
Yeah, big whiff there by ABC News.
Mm-hmm.
Ran with the story. And I do, to piggyback on that, I do love that his brother gave off of like those ew vibes when asked, is he a Cub fan? Ew, no, he's a Sox guy. And then there's pictures of him at the '05 World Series. He's got the flip phone in his hand. It's a great look. And I think it was Jake yesterday in the group thread who used the term baptized by Jardinera, which is very funny. I thought. Hey man, it's too bad Paul's not here because I know Paul's a big Pope guy. Although Gertch might be the biggest Pope guy on the show. We're learning a lot more about
Right.
Gertch as the weeks and months go on. Big mascot guy, maybe a bigger Pope guy.
Dude, if we would have known that this guy's okay, here's your Chicago connection, here's your guy, we would have bet him, right? We would have just done it. That sinks. Oh well,
I mean,
missed opportunity.
he had to be triple digits to win. Had to.
Right, man. I mean, I don't know how you handicap such a thing. I guess people were starting to look at trends, but yeah, it's too bad we missed out. But big news that happened yesterday, right after the show. So we wanted to make sure that we hit that. Now we do have some Heisman odds, and a lot of times the odds that are available right now in early May are not the odds that you're going to see when we get to the start of the season. So that's why we want to bring this up and some of the names that are popping as far as we're thinking. Now, there are every once in a while those years where a long shot down the board. I remember that summer, early this summer, Burrow was 200 to 1. There are long shot guys that end up winning this award. There's a trend that I want to kind of go over and discuss, Sam. But one thing that we both know, you don't want the favorite. The favorite rarely wins here.
DJ Uyunglele, Spencer Rattler, guys that come to
Mm-hmm.
mind in recent years who were favored to win the Heisman. Last year, the favorite was Quinn Ewers coming in. I agree with you, man. And this is another market in college football where you could probably watch the favorites float out a bit. And if you want to bet a guy like Arch, let him struggle early because the Heisman
Mm-hmm.
isn't really won in September. It's won in late October and in November. That much has come very clear to me in the last 10 years of this market. I also advise people to shop around. Now, a lot of these American books have 6 to 1, 7 to 1 on Arch. And we love MGM. We love them. The best price, though, on Arch Manning is in Las Vegas right now, where our friends at the Superbook have him at plus 950. Why would you bet 6? Why would you bet 7 when you can bet
Hmm.
plus 950? These books take stances, and these books also have different liabilities. Do you know the one player? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. I'll tell rather than ask. The one player I keep hearing about in terms of liability is the quarterback at South Carolina, Lenore
Oh, yeah.
Sellers. This is a guy who was, 30, 35 to 1 in a couple markets. And now I see some books at 20. I see some books at 18. I see another one at 16. This is a guy that's getting popped at double digit numbers. He's a younger cat, but he really showed out last year. He'll be a redshirt sophomore this year. And he's also taken money to be the first overall pick, which is interesting. He was like 25 to 1, and now he's 7 to 1 to be the first pick in next year's draft. A lot of people are betting on Sellers, not only for Heisman, but to be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, if not going to Arch, like that's the way to go. The upside guys. That's what we're looking for. One name that's top 10 in odds, and I just laugh at. Like, never, not with your money, would I bet on Carson Beck to win the Heisman Trophy at Miami. There are guys with limited ceilings that I'm going to eliminate immediately. And there's another one that is, I want to say, fourth in odds that I'm willing to eliminate. And here's my explanation behind it. And maybe you would think this is idiotic. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But look at the odds. Look at all the quarterbacks up there. So I'm talking about Jeremiah Smith. And maybe he's a generational talent. Dude's phenomenal. We understand that. We saw that last year. But I'm just looking at the last 20 years, how this award goes. You'll get a non-quarterback, but then you're going to get a run of 3-4 years of being quarterback. And then, I don't know if it's the right year, voters getting bored, whatever, you'll get a non-quarterback. And then you'll get another run of 3-4 straight years of quarterbacks. Here's how it's gone. We know Travis Hunter this past season. Before that, 3 straight quarterbacks. Prior to that run, you had Devontae Smith, wide receiver. Before Devontae Smith, 4 straight quarterbacks. Prior to that, you had Derrick Henry, the running back. Before Henry, 5 straight quarterbacks. And right before that run, a running back. Before that, 3 straight quarterbacks. It doesn't go back and forth. And yeah, you have your outliers with running back, a receiver, a guy that plays both sides like you did this past year with Travis Hunter. But we get these runs after quarterbacks, after non-quarterbacks win. And you see that with the odds. I mean, that's where I would start. I would just be looking at the quarterbacks that have upside.
And the truth is, last year, a lot of these quarterbacks underperformed.
It's a
There's
bad year.
always a bunch of quarterbacks at the top of the board.
Mm-hmm.
One of them usually hits in the top 6, right? Here's your list last year. I have the odds here. These are from BetMGM last August. Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, those 2 were co-favorites. Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Will Howard, Nico Iamaleava, Garrett Nussmeier. Then
Mm-hmm.
Cam Ward, who did have a pretty good season. Then Riley Leonard. None of those guys balled out the way that people thought they would. And that's when you have those years where a Travis Hunter wins or a Devontae Smith wins. I have a feeling, given this list, I mean, there are some studs on this list. Arch,
Yep.
Klubnik, Nussmeier, Sayin, I like Lagway, Sellers, not betting Drew Aller. I will not. But I think one of these guys this year is going to hit the board, finally.
Yeah. Okay, so it was the exact same thing when Devontae won. It was Trevor Lawrence underperforming. Third in votes that year was Mac Jones, and fourth was Kyle Trask. Like, yeah, he was fourth in Heisman that year. That's how bad the quarterback class is. And so we're saying, like, look, this quarterback class, not as bad as what we saw last year. And so it's going to be way different. It begins and ends with the quarterbacks. I totally get your thoughts there. And the number of upside guys that you're bringing up, makes perfect sense. Right there around Beck, like, man, when you start getting these 20s, there's a big drop off. You see Gunnar Stockton. I know he's on a really good team, but come on, I just don't see it happening with him. We saw a little bit of him last year, but yeah, the names that are getting a little bit of run here makes sense. How high do you think Klubnik gets? Like, is this the shortest it gets before the season starts?
So I can only see the Vegas numbers and a couple offshore numbers. I don't know what MGM has on him. I guess I could just look at our screen right here. What do they got? 11-1. I see him 9-1 offshore, and then at the Westgate he's 10-1.
I see a 14
Here's the thing.
available.
Okay, I would bet the 14 because I come from a camp where Clemson probably goes 10-2, 11-1. At which point that number probably doesn't float out. I mean, their schedule to start the season, assuming they get through the first game against LSU, it's pretty easy, man. There's not a lot of roadblocks, and I keep hearing they're going to throw the ball a ton this year. So after LSU, which, by the way, is in Death Valley, that's a home game for them. You go to Troy, you go to Georgia Tech, Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College. Like, it's not a difficult schedule out of the gate. I mean, it's not a difficult schedule at all, but there's not this huge road of landmines early in the season. So that's not a guy I think goes up. If anything, I think he comes down. Not to say he's going to win it, but that 14 is probably ripe to bet right now.
That's a good exercise. Which numbers are going to be gone? So you think Sellers will be gone, or has it moved enough to where this probably has some staying power?
You could bet still some 20. I would think the cutoff would be 20. Like, anything higher than 20, if you find that person, go for it. If it's lower, you might be able to wait.
Yep. We're amped for college football, can you tell? Talking about it a couple of days here. These numbers are going to move, so that's why we talk about it this time of year. All right, today's full MLB card on the other side. You've got Bet Sweats on the BetMGM Network.